Greetings, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Simply Free Little Talk. I hope that this evening that you are enjoying your life and life is just beautiful for you because we have an amazing guest on Inspirational Monday. I want you to be inspired. I want you to be intrigued by the things that he's going to say. But more importantly, I want to see your transformation manifest because that's one of his specialties. Did you hear me? I said that's one of his specialties. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to an amazing individual, Dr. Tommy. He's an author. Let me say author, Dr. Tommy R. Nash. He is a retired U.S. naval officer. He's a professional speaker. As I stated earlier, he's definitely an author with a passion for transformation. But I want to tell you the title of his book. I love it. It's called Leadership Intelligence Creates Leadership Champions. So without further ado, let me bring him in so he can tell you more about how he's been inspired. Hello, Dr. Tommy Nash. How you doing?
Oh, good evening, Miss Free, and good evening, everyone else. Thank
Yeah.
you for having me, and thank you for dialing in whatever you had to do to get here because I know you could have been doing something else, but I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. It is such a pleasure to have you here. I love the fact that you are wearing multiple hats. Let's say that first and foremost. But you have a unique style that is not strolling under your picture today that I want to bring out first. You have a unique style of storytelling. You want to share with us about that?
Well, yes, I do. And if you could
Mhm.
put my slide up there real quick.
I sure
All
can.
right. And what Miss Free is talking about is storytelling. Well, it's not just because I tell a lot of stories. It's because I think it's a unique way to. If you want to break the ice, that's fine if you want to say that. But we're talking about transformation, and what I want to do tonight, I'm going to tell you a little story. All right, but it's going to be about transformation. And why do I say that? Because it's about transforming from where I am from to where I am now. And again, this leadership intelligence creates leadership champion. And Miss Free said she liked that. I was inspired so much I even named my business after the book. So here we go.
I
And
love it.
again, I am Tommy Nash. And let me tell you about my story, how it began. And it's not too far removed from the Beverly Hillbillies because I can identify with some of that. But I am Mississippi born and raised. I was born in a little small place called Duck Hill, Mississippi. About at the time I graduated, about 100 years ago, actually it was 1981, we only had, I think it was 33 people in our class. And I think we had one of the bigger classes. Yeah, 33 whole people. And in a really small town. And I
Oh,
think about 2 or 3 years ago, I think we had 1,100 people about it. I don't know how many it is now, but 2 or 3 years ago, I think the population was about 1,100 people. And
mm,
but being from a small town is you get a lot of respect. Everybody respected everybody.
yes,
You
yes.
know, back then when I was growing up, you don't see a lot of the same things you see now. Of course, things change, people change, world change, and
Mhm.
so some changes are good, some are bad. But you let you decipher those. But being from a real small town, everybody knew everybody. Okay, at the summertime, we had great jobs. Some of my jobs, you may not think so great today, hauling hay, hauling putwood. And if anybody in the audience know what I'm talking about, hey,
Smart.
it builds character. Some of the southern cooking, pig feet,
Oh,
come on. Yes, can't beat that. But let me tell you about the basketball trick. And not track and field, but basketball. Being from the country, if you didn't have we didn't always have the concrete basketball court or any other kind of basketball court. We didn't have luxury
mm,
going to the gym either. So we had to make our own right there in the yard.
whoa.
Sometimes right up under a tree. You have a door or whatever you can find for a backboard and a bicycle rim for the basketball goal. So, and if you're under the tree, the thing that you have, that was not a bad thing because you had roots and coming from the tree, exposing themselves on the ground, which made good ball handlers because you bouncing the ball, you hit a root, and if it go any kind of way, you don't you in an unexpected way. So you have to be a good ball handler in order to to handle the ball when the roots are there. So track and field. We had good track and field people there, and went blackberry hunting. Yes, blackberry hunting. You know, I
Very
just tell you
fun.
this funny. One of my best friends, we used to go blackberry hunting. This guy would be barefoot going through the thickets and the thorns and everything. So, and I'm telling you this now, so I'm going to get to the point here sooner or later. But we did a lot of game hunting, close community. And guess what? When I say close community, I'm talking about if you're down somewhere and away from home, you act up, the grown-ups will whip you in. When you get home, you get another one. So you get a double
Yes,
dose of that whipping. So uh, that's what you call keeping the village. You know, you're helping the village out.
the
And
whole
then
village.
Hillary Clinton said a long time ago, it takes a village to raise a community.
Mhm,
Well, yeah,
mhm.
it does. And then I really believe that. And my grandmother, you know, she's born in 1893. Yes, and she
Ooh,
yes, 1893, and she lived till she was her 99 years old, and
wow.
good old right age of 99. So one of the first things that I drove was a tractor. I think I was like 6 or 7 years
Mm,
old. I helping my stepdad because he gets his truck stuck, and I had to drive a tractor. Anyway, we lived on a ranch, and so that's what I did. And the next thing I drove was a 1967 pickup. So I tell you, e- everything in Mississippi was not bad, and
yeah.
some of the things, if I could go back to it, I would. So let me tell you some good things here. You see that picture on the right here that I'm talking about? That's
Yes.
Devin Booker. Anybody familiar with Devin Booker? He went to school
Oh,
for a while, Moss Point in Mississippi. And
mhm.
I just showed you some of the other pictures here just so you
Yeah.
can know what happens there. Cotton, it's not all about the cotton. Now, what did
Mm.
I do when I left home? I left home at a very early age, right out of high school. My mom was really mad at me because I didn't tell her, I didn't give her forewarning except for like 2 weeks. And she like, what? You doing what? You going where? And so
Yeah.
she was really angry for a while. She was more upset or hurt, I think would be a better word.
Than anything.
Yes. So when I went in the Navy, I went in and enlisted. Now I'll point that out later. I went in and enlisted, and I literally traveled the world, the globe, Japan, Australia, Hong
Mm.
Kong, China, Russia, Middle East, Abu Dhabi, Jebel Ali, Dubai, Karachi, Kuwait, you name it. I've been there. California, Norfolk. I've been everywhere. Drove ships, shot missiles. I did some of the things you just never even think about.
Yeah.
So then I was commissioned as an officer. So I went in as an E1 and got commissioned as an officer and retired as a O4, which is like a major, a lieutenant commander in the Navy. Now, and I know you're saying, man, why is he telling us all of this kind of stuff? Well, why am I telling you this? You're probably wondering. Well, I'm telling you this because what I'm talking to you about today, tonight, is about transformation.
Transfer.
Transformation. Because it's not so much about where you start, but it's about where you finish. Where did
Yeah.
I start at? I started in Duck Hill, but I always be from Duck Hill. But I'm here now, somewhere else, and I'm not even. And I know. Guess what? I'm not even finished yet. I still got a ways to go.
Wow.
God grace, I got some more traveling and more everything to do. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and and normally I would have like a 39 slide to show you, but I'm not going to do that to you tonight. I told Miss Free I'm not going to
Mm.
subject you to that. So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it humane, and we're going to keep it fun. Thank you for
Okay.
my introduction.
All right. Well, that was really great. You got the chance to share evidence within your own personal life of how powerful transformation actually really can be with the proper training. So,
Indeed, and it's
yeah.
training. And some things you'll learn in life. Some people, oh, I'm a born leader. Well, maybe not so much. You still have to learn some things, but you
Have to
know,
learn some things.
leadership. And oh, by the way, before I keep going about leadership, leadership. When you hear me talk about leadership,
Hmm.
it's not just about in the business or organization. It's about at home, in the church, in the
That's true.
community, out on the basketball court, in the street, wherever. There's going to be some kind of leadership, and that's what we're talking about here. So you can replace the word business with a lot of those places I just told you about.
That's true. It can be applicable in all of those areas that you named. So that brings me to the difference in what is a manager and a leader.
Well, managing. Let's talk about that. Well, when we're talking about manager, we're talking about someone that's dealing with people uh, or dealing with, hey, the day-to-day stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about leadership, you're talking about influencing. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Influencing the people. That's why I talk about manage. You got to stop managing and
Mm-hmm.
start leading.
And start
Why?
leading. I
That's
like
the
that.
transformation part of it right there. And some people think they're leading, however, they're not. They're still managing. They have to know the difference. But when you start leading, that's when you start talking about making differences in the future. I'm not just talking. You're making differences in the
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day stuff too. But the big difference between a manager and a leader, you're talking about future events. How can I change the people's lives? How can I change what's going on? You're going to influence the people. When you're a manager, you're not thinking about that so much. You're
Ex-
thinking about the day to day stuff, immediate stuff. That's what you're thinking about. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying that managers are bad. I'm just
That's
saying,
true.
let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you want to be a manager or do you want to be a leader? Have you
I'd
ever
love to be a
heard?
leader.
There you go. Have you ever heard the
Absolutely.
manager of the free world? No. You always hear the leader of the free world.
The leader of the free world, yes. Well, that brings me to a statement that you made that it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And so when I heard that, I said, this is the reason that he is skilled in taking a manager and transforming them into a leader.
Absolutely. And you know what? And that is so true. When that's why I told you that little story about where I'm from because it's transformation involved.
It
And that's
is.
what I do. I transform managers into leaders who get results.
Get
But I
results.
get
Yeah.
result. But how do I do that? I empower my clients. Empowerment. I empower them to do what? Transfer effective leadership because you can't hold it all. Because manager needs to know, hey, I was in his position at one point. Some
Yeah.
managers forget that. And they forget where they come from, but they have
Yeah.
to. That's another thing about being a leader. You have to have an open mind. You have to keep the open door. But some people forget about it, and they forget about that they have people working for them. But guess what? While the organization might have a mission, the
Hmm.
mission cannot be completed without the people.
Wow. And that's so important. And you mentioned that leaders care about the people, they care about their development. So I would consider you a leader because you stated that you take leaders and well leadership champions. You mentioned leadership champions. That's part of the title of your book. So kind of elaborate more on the book and then people can really understand why you are so influencing of managers to your influence and your teaching skill and style is to get managers to become great leaders.
Well, I will go back on my 25 years of being a naval officer, and I had that 16 years of being in private industry and now federal government leadership
Okay.
positions. So that's a total of about 41 years. After
Whew,
41 years, I think I got a little bit I can share about leadership. 'Cause
just a
you know,
little
I've
bit.
seen the good and I've seen the
Just a
bad.
little.
That's right. I've seen some good, I've seen the bad. So when I talk about leadership champions, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the people that can go out there and be effective,
Effect.
effective leadership. Because you can go out there and be a leader all day, but if you're not being effective, what good are you doing? You have to be effective. But going back to what you said, knowing your people, yeah, you have to facilitate your employees, facilitate, give them room to grow, facilitate employee growth. That is what it's all about, taking care of your people. Because if you
Mhm.
don't, they won't take care of you.
They will not. That is so wise. And I've heard that for years. And I just wish that more leaders would really embrace that knowledge because you can lead people not just to the water, but you can lead them and teach them how to drink the water and how to produce as a result. So I love your concept. I just it's not just a concept, it actually is facts. It you
Yeah.
have successful outcomes as a result.
Absolutely. But one just a caveat of what you just said, go about the water,
Yes.
you need to teach them to fish.
Teach
Okay.
them to fish. That's
There you
true.
go. And you
That's
know what
right.
I'm talking about.
I do.
So
I'm
it's
with you.
about getting them out of the stands and getting them on the court
Get
because you
them.
can't always keep them in the stands, expect for them to be proficient. So it's all about that. But first, if you teach them to fish, guess what? They'll be fishermen. and you get
There
them on
you
the court,
come,
you can
fisherman.
be
I
they'll be
love
very
it.
adept at that as well.
Wow. Well, you have another book, The Leading Edges, leading from the front, the back, sides, top to bottom. That's very efficient. That means you're a leader everywhere. So that kind of goes back to what did you stated earlier, what a leader is in every area and aspect of their life.
Absolutely, because you know what, leadership is not always done from the front.
That's right.
Sometimes you have to lead from the rear.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to lead side by side with somebody
That's
or
right.
whoever you're leading, but it's not always from the front. Sometimes you have to lead from the top, and sometimes you have to go to the bottom and lead. But you
Mm,
got to know which one. And I say that because leadership is not a cookie cutter process. There are different kind of leadership styles, and not one style will always work. You have to be
sure.
ready. Situational. Think about it. Situational leadership. You got to be ready. You got to be flexible.
Mm. And that's true. And so you have this unique style of helping a leader to be able to lead from the front, the back, the sides, and the top and the bottom. So wherever you have to fit in, you give them that flexibility in your teaching skills.
Absolutely, because you know you have to. But it goes back to you have to know your people.
Know your people.
You know, when you have people working for you or working with you,
Hmm.
you can lead people that work with you. You know, they don't always have to work for you, but you have to know them. But if it's something you don't know, don't be afraid to ask.
Ah,
But
that's my
you
favorite.
have to ask, and you got to know what to ask. Ask the right questions. You know, you can't go in there and think you want to be a nosy person because they're going to turn your way. Go in there with a genuine concern or
Yes.
a genuine care and let them say, hey, you know, what's going on here? You can work together on things, but you can also let them think they're leading. It's nothing wrong with that. It's about
Mm.
being humble too. Because if you're being humble, guess what? You're going to do a bit of self reflection. And by the way, when you're talking about self reflection, that's part of transformation. What am I talking about when I say
Come
self
on,
reflection?
talk about it.
I'm talking about you or someone removing that plank from their own eye before they can remove that splinter from someone else's eye. And you have to
Ah,
look in
say
the
that
mirror.
again. Say that again.
Removing the plank from your own eye
Yes.
before you remove a splinter for someone else's. Because
Wow.
if you don't, how are you going to lead them?
Mm.
They're going to look at you and say, please remove that plank just so you can see me,
Mm-hmm.
so you can
Mm-hmm.
lead me. If you
Wow.
don't, you're going to lead them astray.
Mm.
But I go back to that. Look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson saying that man in the mirror.
We say the man in the mirror. That means looking at your own reflection. I love it,
That's
Dr.
right.
Nate.
That's
Yeah.
right. And that's part of transformation.
Wow. Well, that's
Again,
also time to reflect, right? Don't
yes,
you also teach that that's important that we stop and reflect where we are, what you did in the past, how you have developed your progress
every day. Self reflection
every
should be done every day.
every
Think
day.
about what you did right. Think about what you did wrong. How did I get here? Who got me
Mm,
here? You know, what path did I take?
yes,
Lessons learned. Think about your lessons learned.
I love
What
it.
are the things that I did to get here and what worked? What did not work? You could, you know, and that's why I think about when I say I'm a progressive or I'm a forward thinker. I
Hmm.
think
Yes,
about
you
that
are.
kind of stuff. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about when I say that because a lot of people may be in a room and say, you know, things that might not work. So I think there's an opportunity to say, hey, what can I use to turn this around and say, make it
Uh-huh.
a positive?
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking about what about the meeting next week with the high profile clients? Or you know what? As a progressive thinker like that, you're always ahead. You know, you're
Hmm.
thinking about stuff next on down the line while other people are here thinking about now. You got that covered, but you're
Yes.
also thinking about the next step.
Wow. 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 You know, I love it because when I stop and I do, and I've said it on several other shows, I'm always thinking about where I was last year. But more importantly, I love the day to day. But there was a coach of mine that taught me hour to hour. Look at where you were at 12 o'clock. Where are you at 4? How much productivity did you do? And that's a leadership skill that really has helped me to be more productive and also calmer. Wouldn't you agree that when a person takes the time to reflect on behaviors, you're calm? Even under attacks, you can sit there and be like, mm-hmm, you know, because you want to be the better you.
Well, man, it must. You must have been reading my slides. It will say it. Because let me tell you what
I
I'm
live
talking
by
about.
that.
Be the best version of you.
Be the best
Okay?
version. Yeah.
Always be the best version of you. And you want to be unique. And I'm not talking about UNIQUE. I
Come
am
on.
talking about YOU, unique. Okay?
Authentic you.
Put the YOU in front of unique, not you,
Me.
but unique.
Yes.
Because that will help you be the best version of yourself.
Absolutely.
Because you know
Absolutely.
what? And if you're not always the best version of yourself, somebody's gonna know. Because somebody's always watching you. You have to be.
Always.
You set the goal.
Wow.
You setting the standards. You're setting goals here. People are always watching, whether you know it or not. People are watching, observing you,
Mhm.
and being calm is just part of it. You cannot. Only a fool will open his mouth before thinking.
Ah, can you say that one
Okay?
again? Because that's somebody in the back, Doc, who didn't hear you.
Only a fool
Only
will open his mouth and speak without thinking.
without
All
thinking.
right.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. So you have to
Wow.
be calm about it, but it's more about just open
Mhm.
your mouth. You got your actions. Actions speak louder than words. That's
Totally.
why, yes. When I teach my
Totally.
students, I use a, a, a framework of lead. You lead, you listen, and
Hmm.
E is engage. A is take action, and D is demonstrate. So
Wow.
lead, yes, that's what you do.
This is so good. And this is motivating us to, like I said, what I live by, be the better version of myself. I don't live in the past because the past is gone. So the future person needs to know how to go forward. So when you speak of forward thinking, I was like, yes, this is my kind of person. I love that because it's positive. You want positive things. My circle or my dots, they're people of influence, but positive influence. We encourage one another. We want to see the best in one another. We
Hmm.
actually met because of Dr. Lamar Spencer. Renee is a person that wants to advance. I encourage her, she encourages me. We impart in one another. If you don't have that, even in friendship, and I know you speak of leadership in every area and aspect of your life, but that's a form of a friendship leading one another into a positive mindset. Because you speak about mindset. So kind of elaborate on the mindset of a person, that space that they should be in.
Well, you said a lot of it right there, but the mindset, and I just told you about one of the mindset that I use is LEAD. But let me
Mhm.
just ask a question here.
Okay.
Would you imagine working with someone that's a complete pessimist uh,
Ooh,
about everything? That, oh, it's a lovely day. Yes, but it's going to rain in about an hour. But
I've been around that.
oh yeah, we all have. But we have to pray and move forward about it. But
Absolutely.
the group setting that you're talking about, where everybody work together, that is
Yes.
one of the best things they can do because iron sharpen iron. Okay,
Yes. Speak on
and
that.
and when you do that, you keep moving and you make everybody else better. And when you do that, guess what? When you like what you're doing, you're more productive. That's a
Yes.
known fact. So when you're more productive, guess what? Everybody benefits. The company benefits, you benefit personally, but it's a growth tool. It's a tool that you can use for growth. And if leaders use it the right way,
Yes.
empowerment, yes, they
Empowerment.
could, yes, uh, that's the way you do it.
Yes.
And if they use it the right way, very productive.
Very, very. We
Emotional
actually,
intelligence. That's another one.
I
Think
like
about it.
that. Intelligence. Yes.
Emotional
Yes.
intelligence. That's a tool that leaders don't use
Love that.
often enough. Because
Mm,
if they have control of their emotions, first
absolutely.
of all, and they talk and knew their people and knew their emotions, that those are
Mm,
tools that just invaluable that they can use for
absolutely.
making the
Uh,
workspace so much better.
yes. You are correct. And so you've stressed a lot throughout our conversation of knowing your people. That's something I remember more than 20 some years ago. I remember sharing that with a former supervisor. When you know your people, you almost can pinpoint and know, I know Sally Jane, I can have her on this assignment. I know John, I better give him this, but also know I better follow up with John. Knowing your people, that doesn't mean one is better than the other. You have different thinkers. So kind of elaborate on the thinking of how you Know your people enough to know what information, how you filter that to them.
Let me just tell you this way:
Mhm.
this pandemic
Ah,
afforded leaders prime opportunities to know
good,
their people. Guess what? Because they couldn't see them every day.
good,
They had to think
good.
about new ways to reach out. So some of the people who I work for at the TSA, Transportation Security Administration, they use different methods. They were using email, reach out to you. How you doing this today? How you doing? Or they use, guess what? They even call. Hey Tommy, how you doing? You doing okay? But it's about making your people feel like they're wanted. Okay.
Absolutely.
If they're not feeling like they're wanted or contributing, they don't feel left out. You
Yeah.
have to know. But another thing on the backside of that, when you know your people have to know you. You have to put yourself out there so
Yes.
the leaders, so the people can know thy leaders. If they don't, they'll be
Mm,
afraid to come and talk to you. If they don't want to talk to the leaders, guess what? If you haven't solved anything. That cycle that you want to start, that knowing your people is not going to get started because people are not going to want to talk to you or not talk to the leaders. You're not going to want to do it.
that's true. You know, and I can say this with you being, like you say, country raised, small town. That means your grandmother was 90, what, 99 when she departed from this side of life, and I know she left a lot of great wisdom with you, and I can see that in your leadership abilities and skills. I had a wonderful great grandmother and grandmother that deposit those things in me, just common sense knowledge, like you have to show yourself friendly, you have to think. They taught us to think outside the box, and meaning in that regards, and I know you heard this, don't take everything for face value, understand the motive of what's said, listen more attentively than what you say.
Oh
So
yeah.
really, really can speak on that. Is that incorporated in your teaching skills?
It is because you know what? Just like you said, I learned a lot from my grandmother and my mother, and a lot of the wisdom. Like you said,
Yes.
you can't learn. You can't learn everything. You can't judge a book by its cover.
Mhm.
Because the more inside
Come
the book
on,
than
a lot
the
of good
cover.
sayings,
That's
got
right.
great sayings.
You can learn more by observing than speaking and the whole nine
Mhm.
yards. But they had a lot of saying,
They
but
did.
it come from a lot of discipline too, and
Absolutely. Say that.
it came with a lot of discipline.
Yes.
Yeah. And back in the day, it's not like today, and
Mhm.
that discipline was put up on you in so many different ways, but you
Yes.
respected it at the time. Well, at the time
Yes.
you didn't respect it, but you learned, and anything that didn't kill you made you better. But at the time you thought they were trying to kill you, but
Yes, you did. I'm so glad
so
you came back and reiterated. Well, you didn't think at the time, because I know a lot of things I think back to, and I was like, "Oh my God, are they drilling this in me over and over again?" But I love it today.
but you know what? A lot of times you don't look at it right then and say this
No.
is not a learning experience, but later on in life
Whew.
when you look at it, you're like, yo, that was a learning experience. It's part of that
Mhm.
leadership skill that you have. Because everybody, even if I took all this leadership classes and doing my studies, but guess what? A lot of that stuff I took in the classroom, it was stuff that they taught that I couldn't learn that I couldn't learn there, but was taught at home.
Yes, yes. I was waiting on you to say it. Was a lot of things that from the childhood is incorporated in everyday life. Even the
Absolutely.
reflection part. We were taught,
Yes.
think about your actions, think about what you said. How can you improve? And I love your whole teaching method of leadership. Well, you said it's at home. It starts at home. Be a leader
Yeah,
at home.
that's right. At home, and I will say it again, in the church.
And in the church. Yeah.
In the church, because
Yeah.
many of us were raised in the church, but you know what can go on in the church,
Mm-hmm.
but it starts in the church.
It
Some
starts.
of it. There is leadership in the church. There is leadership everywhere in your family. Whether
Yeah.
you're the man of the house, the woman of the house, whatever, you have to demonstrate some form of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, how else are they going to follow? If
Yes.
you're not the leader, how are they going to follow?
How they gonna follow? I
That's
love
right.
it. This is so crucially important. Let's talk about the book that you're a co-author with. Um, and I think it steps into leadership greatness.
Yes.
Wow.
Well,
Isn't just a title. I like that. Yes.
yes, but that I think that book consisted of a myriad of authors, and that particular book, I worked with the great lady here, Jennifer Bryan, Dr. Bryan. I don't know if you heard her name, but
No, not
she was
yet.
the, yes, she was the visionary behind that, and we used to work together at TSA. But she called a lot of people. Hey, will you be in this anthology with me? And let's write this book. Stepping into leadership greatness, because leadership is more than just a title, and
Much
it is. Let me tell you something. When I think about that, leadership is more than just a title. It make me think about some of the best leaders in the world. Best leaders in the world, worldwide, did not have a title before or after their name. Their
say
placard wasn't on the door. They didn't have a placard on the door on the desk, but so they still some of the best leaders in the world. So when you step into that leadership greatness, it's not about that title.
no.
Because you think about the word, it's not just title, nothing but or position. Think about what I'm saying here. It's not everything. It doesn't make a person. Okay, it's
Mm-mm.
just a title. And so when you're talking about leadership, and I like to say effective leadership,
Effective
you have to
leadership.
work at it. Yes.
Yes. With great work ethics,
Yes,
with
there
great
you go.
morals.
Oh, see, there is so much stuff that's wrapped up into that
Yes, it
great
is.
leadership,
That's a word right
integrity,
there.
moral, uh, honesty. Yes,
Yes.
you're talking about
Honesty,
motivation.
integrity.
Yes, and
When you
integrity.
start awarding people for being like, it's like, what are we doing? Where is the world coming to? Yes, yes.
Yes,
Thank you
indeed.
for that. Yes. I want to reward someone, like you said, they didn't even have titles. They just were people who led. They were people that did. They were people who impacted a community because of their heart really was rooted in the community and wanted to see people do well. Yeah. Mm.
Yes, and community leaders, and you know what? You praise in public,
Ah,
okay, and chastise where privately.
yes,
And so
yes.
that
That's good.
boy, that is one of the most effective tools that a
Absolutely.
leader can use. After, if you recognize someone, especially in front of his peers, subordinate, that goes a long way.
A long
It's
way.
not used enough. Sometimes, as you said, it may be given to the wrong person. But guess what? You
Yes.
have to effective leaders. That's it's mandatory. They recognize. They have to recognize the right person for the right award
Absolutely.
for what they've done, their performance, what did they do?
What did
You
you
know what?
do? Yes,
Even
I like
it may be as simple as coming out of your office, going to that person's
that.
desk. Hey, you're doing a great job. That goes a long way for
It
morale and
does.
motivation.
Yes. Motivation and morale is so crucially important. And as you stated, you let's go back to the pandemic. Individuals were locked in their homes. We didn't have a lot of physical contact, but you stated that the supervisors would call and just, hey, Tommy, how you doing? You know, that went so far with people. People were on Zoom calls, literally crying because someone cared enough to say, let's meet at 10 o'clock in the morning. Just say, how you doing? No business talk. How are you doing? How is your family?
Absolutely. I am so glad you brought that up because those meetings that they have, you have a strategy meeting, but you also have a meeting just to get together, talk about everybody. Say, hey, everybody get a chance to weigh in, all hands, if you will, but all hands just to discuss how everybody's doing. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't want to do that, like I said before, those individual calls. You, when I received the call, I was like, who is it? Is this Eddie? And, it is our senior executive special service. So
Yeah.
yes, and I was so surprised, but it is effective because
Yes, it
make,
really is.
yes, make people think they belong there.
And that they're important and they matter.
Absolutely important.
Yes. Let's talk about leadership with friendship, because that's one that I just really adore. Like my friends or my family, they get, I love text messages. That was the best thing that could have been created for me, because then I can just send a text and say, hey, Tommy, I love you. I'm thinking about you. Do you know when people receive those messages, they say, oh, Free, you don't know, it arrived at the right time. Well, guess what? When I get it from people, it arrived at the right time. Just someone thinking about you.
Yeah, there you go. Again, that you are absolutely on point because you know I don't do it as often as I should, but but one thing I do, and every day without fail, and my siblings, I send out and my wife and I also send it to one of my coworkers every day, prayer, scripture, and thoughts.
Hmm.
And those things make people think about, uh, hey,
Absolutely.
man, this guy really keeping us in mind here.
Yeah.
Or, but not just that, coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
Even if not, don't wait till you see them again because now we're going back to work. Don't wait till you see them at work to say, hey, how you doing? Or, how you doing? We're thinking about you, like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Send them an email, send
Send
them
them
a
an
text or whatever, saying, hey, we're thinking about you here. How are you? Everything okay? But
email.
the friendship stuff, and you were right, so right about it. You couldn't have been
Mhm.
more right.
Thank you. Well, that's one of the things of reflection. How would I want to be addressed? How would I do I want to get a text that says, "How you doing? I know you dealing with a health challenge," or "Hey, whether you're dealing with a health challenge, or not, I just want to say, how are you doing? How's the family? How's your children doing? Is there anything I can be of service? I may not be able to do anything, but at least I'm offering what can I do? Is it prayer you need? Yeah, just common concern about another person. Yeah, I
That's
love
it.
this. Yeah. So your leader, you said discipline. Let's go back to that. Is that a lot to do with the upbringing, and then it kind of increase a little more being a U.S. naval officer?
Absolutely. And I will tell you, the discipline started back in the day. I told you about my grandmother.
Ooh,
Let me tell you,
yeah.
down south in Mississippi, they make you go out and get your own switch, and then you bring. But you better not come back with a little twig, because she's gonna make you go out there and get her own. So you better come back with something adequate.
That's
But
right.
and I think my grandmother, I don't know if there's such thing, but I think she went to school, to university, to learn how to beat your butt.
You gotta
So
say they did.
I just think she did because I tell you, and but that discipline that you learned then,
Yes.
that was instilled at a young age, you know, I don't. They weren't beating you just to beat you.
No.
They were trying to instill some form of discipline in
Absolutely.
you. And yes, going in the military back at the time that I went in, discipline was really a stickler. I
High
mean,
standards.
yeah, I will say this. There were some times I neither can not confirm nor deny that that they would put hands on you, but the discipline,
Just
yes,
play the fifth.
yeah, yeah, but they won't do it now. They can't do it now. But I won't, like,
Yeah.
again, I won't say that they did it then either.
Yeah.
But I tell you,
Yeah.
it was discipline was a very big
Yes.
issue. And I tell you,
Absolutely.
I stayed with it for 25 years, and after I enlisted, then I moved on to officer ranks. And officers, you have to present yourself a certain way, an image, of professionalism, integrity, and of all of that. So it goes a long way starting
Hmm.
from home.
That's it.
Combine what you already know, add it on to it.
That's
Because, a lot of people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yes, you can.
it.
This old dog here is still learning. I'm learning every day.
Well, that was also instilled in you as well with your upbringing, that you're constantly learning. Learning is perpetual. You learn something new every day, is what I would hear every day.
Oh, yeah. And if you don't learn something, that means you're being closed minded.
Oh, yes, that's true.
You have to allow yourself, well, you have to be willing to learn. You can't say, I know it all. But
Mm-mm.
then when something happens, you don't want to admit that you didn't know. You
Huh?
have to be willing to learn. What kind of leader are you going to be? What kind of example are you setting? Because I always say, don't set an example, be the example.
Be the example.
Don't,
That's so
yeah,
good.
that's what I always say that. So don't just be an
Mhm.
example. Set the example. You always have to be the example so they
The
can see what you're
That's
supposed to
right.
do.
That is so true. That is so, so true.
Don't
I
just
hate
do
our
what I say,
time.
do what I do.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, come on now. You're gonna make me just scream over here because everything that you stated is things that took me back to my childhood. Those were, good parenting skills, good grandparenting skills, where they
Right.
wanted us to understand that what they were doing was instilling great values in us, things that carry you, things that still carry you and I today. And things that you said, when you said instilled, I just could have just really shouted at that point. My mother, that was her favorite thing. I am instilling this in you, because they set us down, they talked to us. It sounds like you had great communicators as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you said communicators because what? Communication is key.
It
Now, you
absolutely
might not have liked the way that they were communicating it back then because
is.
it was one-sided.
You
But
correct. Did you say that? One sided. We
yeah,
listened and they spoke.
yeah. But communicators, they were. And but as you got older,
Hmm.
hopefully you got less of those meetings and they more communicating. And that's where it starts. You have to be, but you learn quickly that communicating not just a one-way street.
That's
It
right.
has to be up and down and across too,
I
because
love
it's
say
key.
it.
Communication is key at every level of leadership or in the house,
Ooh,
in
I
the
like that.
house, in the house, in the church. If you're not communicating effectively, what are you doing? Because and it
Mm.
starts also with listening.
Yes,
Okay.
come on.
Yes. When I'm talking about that, you're not just listening, you have to listen for understanding. Okay? Not just listen for understanding.
Hmm.
Actively listening. Because
That,
if you don't, you're going to miss out on the great details
that's
because
right.
listening is a form of communication
Hmm.
and it is key everywhere at
Wow.
all times.
I love this. You just remind me so much of Bible bringing and getting things instilled in us. Effective communication, listening more than speaking, and
Yes.
following instructions. Everything that you have spoke today just took me back to all those childhood memories of, even the statement that my uncle used to make. I couldn't get it out. The statement, he said, if you do it right the first time, you won't have to do it again.
There
And
you go.
that simple statement has caused me, again, reflecting, making sure I'm doing it accurate, so I won't have to repeat it again, because you will repeat it again if you don't do it right the first time. So
It
I
is
love
true.
what you are doing. Can we find Where can we find you? I know I have the email address. Tell them about your website.
All right. Well, let me just find it here.
Yes, and
I
then
will tell
I'll
you.
pop it in. Yes, and we can wrap it up. But I've enjoyed it. It's been a wonderful conversation about leadership. You got me excited about the
Okay.
things that, yes,
All right.
life
It's ready.
ready.
Apostle. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am. Okay.
there it is.
Again, yes, ma'am. Again, I'm still Dr. Tommy Nash, and this is where I can be found. And I am the owner of Leadership Intelligence Creates Leadership Champions. And here's all of my information of LinkedIn, Facebook, email, and name of the books. And at another time or forum, if I am invited back, we could talk about. I do have an online course, but we could talk about that at a later time.
Yes,
Yes,
I love that. Yeah, so I'll take it out so you guys can take a snapshot of it. And let's, before we go, let's talk about the online course right quick and tell them how they can contact you. Can they email you and say I'm interested, or just
you
go to
can.
the website?
That would be a very good way. Or then go to my website there and they can and let me know because I communicate through that as well. But the very quickest way would be to email them and say, hey, guess
Good.
what, Dr. Tommy? I'm ready for it. And you
I
know
love
what? And that course, by the way, is it's a 12 about 12 weeks module. You at your own pace stuff. But guess what? You can't go to the next one until you finish the first one. So there's no cheating on this.
love it. No cheating. No cheating.
Mm-mm.
Well,
But it stop you
oh,
from being a manager and start leading. That's what it's all about.
that's all it is. I'm just grateful for your visit and want you to come back and visit us again and provide all this great wisdom to us, because in listening to everything you said from start to finish, it's what every person needs.
Absolutely. And one of my important things here is not about
Mhm.
how fast you're moving, and how fast you're going along you're moving.
As
So
long as you're moving.
there you go. Don't worry about how fast you're going, but keep moving.
I
right?
love that. That was great to close with because we opened with it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And now you're closing with sharing with us that, hey, it's not the pace you're going, it's how you just keep moving.
There you go.
Wow,
Absolutely.
thank you. Now that's great for me because I believe in continuously moving. So thank you again for coming on the show. Yes, you will be invited back. I love it. Thank you for everything you brought to us
Well, I'll be
today.
there. Just let me know.
Dr. Nash, I'm telling you, look him up. You can find you on Facebook, LinkedIn. Is there any
Facebook, LinkedIn, website, whole
and the
nine yards.
and the email?
It
It's
is. It's
underneath the
all there.
caption right now. Yes, you can see it. So on the playback, you guys share it with someone, follow, subscribe, but go back and listen to some of the great wisdom tips that he provided. But then purchase his book. Purchase the book because it's a great book. You know, and I hadn't read it yet, but it's a lot of things that I read from the book that really I can say it will help you. It will help you transform. It will help you self reflect and self development and become that better manager with effective communication. See, I think I'm ready. I'm ready for the
Okay.
course now. Thank you so much again. We really do appreciate you coming on today
And
and
thank you for
have a
having me.
wonderful evening. Thank you. Yes, you will be invited back because you have provided us with great information and causing anyone that wants a new start to transform. So let's just sign off together. Everyone, thank you again for tuning into Simply Free Little Talk and listening to the amazing, incredible Dr. Nash, who really has given us some great wisdom tips, who has really allowed us to know that it's never too late for change. What do you say? The old dog, you can still teach an old dog new tricks. I love that. Learning is perpetual. So thank you for the great wisdom tips that you provided today. So we'll soon. Thank you so much.
All
Have a
right.
good
Bye.
evening.